who was sitting in the McDonald's having his Egg McMuffin and his coffee like he did every morning, and he overhears this, so he starts trying to explain what's going on, what he's seeing. So they say, wait back where you are, we're going to send officers to your location right away. So while they're doing that, Rudolph walks to what is kind of a ditch over here and cuts through the ditch out of sight. A few minutes later, 2 police cars pull up to McDonald's. Jeff Tickle goes out and begins to talk to them and tell them what's going on, what he's seeing. The 2 officers get in their car, they pull out. Tickle pulls out, and Jermaine pulls out, and the 2 officers go in their cars up in this direction, think he's gone up here toward Vulcan. Jermaine gets in his car and follows him up to Vulcan. Jeff Tickle doesn't do that. McDonald's is over here. He gets on 21st Street and begins to go in this direction. Along 21st Street, there are all those old apartments that have been converted to condos, those old brick buildings that are along this way here. Behind that is an old roadway. It may have been a train railway at one point that runs behind that. So Jeff starts driving his car down the street here, and he drives it for as far as he thinks this guy could have walked since he last saw him, which would be about to Beckham Drive. So he pulls all the way in here, and as he gets to Beckham Drive, he said, this is as far as this guy has gone. He makes a turn into Beckham Drive, he's going to turn around, and lo and behold, there at the end of Beckham Drive is a gray Nissan pickup truck with a white camper shell on it, and the guy's got to back up, and he's stuffing his backpack and his jacket and stuff in the back of the car, or the back of the truck. So Jeff goes past him, goes up here, and does a U-turn, and comes back. By the time he comes back, the guy's got into the gray Nissan pickup truck and pulled up to the traffic light there. Jeff pulls in right behind him. The light changes, the guy pulls out, takes a left, and goes back up 21st Street, same direction he'd gone before, and Jeff's right behind him. Well, Jeff didn't have a cell phone either, so Jeff did the next best thing. He took his McDonald's coffee cup and he wrote down the tag number of the car. So you got Jeff going down, you got the gray Nissan pickup truck going down Valley Avenue, you got Jeff Tickle right behind him. Jermaine Hughes, in the meantime, has come back down from Vulcan, and he gets on that highway too. He takes a right, goes back out, and he's kind of looking in the same direction. And as he's driving, he goes past Jeff Tickle's. He sees Jeff Tickle's car, and he knows it from seeing it at the McDonald's, and he looks in front of him, he sees the gray Nissan pickup truck, and he sees the guy driving it, and he says, that's the same guy that I was following. He and Tickle must be in this thing together. So he goes and he makes a U-turn and comes back, and by this time it's about 8 o'clock, traffic's pretty heavy up there. Jermaine is able to get up beside him, and he takes a piece of paper and writes down the tag number of the gray pickup truck right here. By this time they get back at Valley Avenue, get up to just about where Vulcan is. They see the 2 police officers coming down from Vulcan. Jeff Tickle peels off and goes over to them to tell them what he's seen, what's going on. Traffic forces Jermaine to have to turn left. The pickup truck goes straight, right toward Mountain Brook, and they lose sight of it. And that's the last time we see the pickup truck or the man here in Birmingham. But they run the license plate, and it comes back to a guy named Eric Rudolph. It says his license shows that he lives in Asheville, North Carolina. So we begin to look for this guy. The next time Rudolph is seen, there's 100 little stories about this case. This is one I think is kind of cool. As Rudolph is going out of Birmingham, we find out later, he's on I-59. There's a lady named Mary Beth Ellis who's a traveling salesman who covers the Tennessee area. And she drives a van, and every time she goes up to southern Tennessee, she stops at the McDonald's in Trussell and gets a cup of coffee for the drive. Well, she did that this morning. So about, 9 o'clock, she's leaving McDonald's and going to get back on 59 to go toward Chattanooga. And as she does, this guy in a gray Nissan pickup truck with a camera shell in the back won't let her merge on that 59, which really pisses off Mary Beth. So Mary Beth is finally able to get on 59, and she speeds up, catches up with him, pulls up beside the guy, looks over at him, makes eye contact, and gives him the big finger. And then she drives off. Well, about less than a week later, probably 5 days later, Mary Beth has seen the picture of Rudolph in the newspaper, and she calls it up and says, "Hey, I saw that guy," and tells us about the story. In the meantime, FBI, ATF, everybody is looking for Rudolph in North Carolina. The address where he was supposed to be living up in North Carolina, he didn't live there, hadn't lived there in years. His mother lived there. His mother said she hadn't seen him in a year. They started trying to contact his family members. Nobody's seen him in a year, and we're looking for the guy. This is a picture of Eric Rudolph. All the ladies tell me he's a nice-looking guy. I don't know. This is his last known residence. This is in Caney Creek in Murphy, North Carolina. As we're looking for Eric Rudolph, the FBI is moving slowly from east to west across North Carolina, looking for him, going to different towns, checking all the utilities, whatever, trying to find him. They checked Murphy earlier the next day, and they don't have an Eric Rudolph. What they didn't realize is that they checked the water service there, but they didn't realize there were two different water services. And the one they checked, he wasn't listed, but in the second one, he wasn't. So they find out his address about roughly 5 o'clock that afternoon, Friday afternoon after the bombing, which is the next day. Then at the same time here in Birmingham, Doug Jones, who was the U.S. Attorney at the time, along with ATF and FBI, were having a news conference. The news media had learned the name of Eric Rudolph, and they were about to release it. So Doug and I went over and got a material witness warrant for Rudolph, and on the 5 o'clock news, Doug made the announcement that he was a material witness in the case and that we were looking for Eric Rudolph. Of course, that was on national news in all over the country. What we later found out was that Rudolph had been at the Burger King in Murphy, North Carolina, and had apparently heard the broadcast over the radio. So he immediately goes across the parking lot into a Save-A-Lot store and buys 68 pounds of non-perishable food there and batteries. And then he makes a dash back to his residence, where he goes and grabs guns, whatever he can get, very quickly, and then takes off. Within probably 30 to 45 minutes after that, the police arrive at his residence, and they find he had a storm door, which you can barely see, that was closed, but the main door was open. They go in. He still had a pot of oatmeal that was on the stove, and it looked like all the drawers had been opened, stuff was thrown everywhere. And again, Rudolph escapes. About 5 to 6 days later, we find Rudolph's truck abandoned on an old road about, as the crow flies, only maybe 3 or 4 miles from his residence. But it's in the hills and the mountains back there. It would take quite a ways to get there. One other funny story about this, how we found the truck. Coon hunting apparently is a big deal in some parts of North Carolina. And the way we had some coon hunters who reported the truck, and what these 3 guys were doing were out driving around their pickup truck, and they had put carpet on the top of the hood of their truck with an eye bolt. They put their hunt dogs on the hood of the truck, and they drove around slowly. And when the dogs started barking and pointing, then they would stop and spotlight these coons and then go shoot them. So they were doing that, and they saw the reflectors off the back of the truck, back way off the road. So then they called the local police, went up there, and we found the truck. It was hauled to the lab, and it's he became one of the 10 most wanted men in America. There was a $25 million reward for him, and we looked for him for the next 6 years. When I made countless trips to North Carolina, took with the FBI to look for him. We had for years we had agents would come in and go through the woods looking for this guy. There's 500,000 acres of wilderness up there. When I first went up there, I said, how can a guy escape in this day and age? And they took me up to a mountain, and I looked in the distance, and I counted 7 mountain ranges, and not a sign of civilization. So this guy was a very good outdoorsman. Whisonant has lived in the woods all his life. On May 31st, 2004, he was captured in Murphy, North Carolina. Eric Rudolph, the most wanted man in the United States, was captured by a rookie police officer who had been on the job less than 6 months. But that's probably why he got caught by this guy, because the rookie was still doing all the things he was supposed to do. He hadn't picked up any bad habits yet. So this evening, this rookie was going around, and they do checks of businesses to make sure they're not being burglarized, whatever. But he goes to the Valley Shopping Center, and as he did that, he pulled around and he cut his lights off, and he pulls around to the back, and he gets around the back and he turns his lights on. And when he does, he sees a guy back here who's going through all the refuse that's been thrown out, all the old vegetables and fruits and stuff. He's going through all that stuff. And the guy darts behind some milk crates behind him. So he makes an announcement on his radio. This is like 4 a.m. in the morning. And he says, you know, I've got an intruder back here. He gets out of the car, says, come out. And finally the guy comes out. He says, okay, lay down right there. He walks up to the guy. He got his flashlight. He shines his flashlight. He said, okay, who are you? He said, the guy says, my name's Jerry Wilson. He said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Ohio. He said, what are you doing here? He said, well, I'm just passing through. He said, I was living under this bridge over here, and I was just looking for something to eat. By this time, since it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Murphy, North Carolina, and there's not a whole lot else going on in Cherokee County, North Carolina, you have a bunch of other law enforcement units come up in the area. And one of them is a Cherokee County deputy who comes around this way. And when he gets up there, he talks to the young officer, and they exchange information. So this guy, who went to high school with Eric Rudolph, walks over to the ground, puts his flashlight on, and he says, who are you? He said, I'm Jerry Wilson. But he noticed that he got a scar near his lip, just like Eric Rudolph did. So this guy walks back, and by this time, about 4 officers who are standing there, and he says, I think that guy's Eric Rudolph. And they said, oh, come on, that's not Eric Rudolph, you're crazy. He said, no, I really think that's Eric Rudolph. So they talk about it, and he says, okay, we'll take him back to the Murphy police station, and we'll check his fingerprints. So they say, Mr. Wilson, we're going to take you back to the police station, get you something to eat, make sure you're okay. And they have a safe shelter statute there. So they put in a police car, go back to the Murphy Sheriff's Department, which is, if you've ever seen the Andy Griffith Show, you've seen the Murphy Police Department. They bring him in and put him in a chair right there beside the door. The sheriff's deputy, who thought it was Rudolph, goes back, he gets on the computer, goes to the FBI website, and downloads the one poster for Eric Rudolph. He walks back out there, he walks up behind Eric Rudolph, and he holds the poster up behind him, and the other police officer standing there, he says, what do you think? What do you think? He said, who are you? He said, I'm Jerry Wilson. He said, now, who are you really? He said, are you Eric Rudolph? He said, you got me. I am. And that's how Eric Rudolph got caught. after the millions of dollars spent by the federal government, we have a rookie cop who finds Eric Rudolph. What I was going to show you a moment ago, and I can't back up, was one of his hideouts there in Murphy. He had several hideouts that he used. Probably his best one was in a bear preserve. And he said the first year he almost died of starvation because the bears stole all his food. And then he learned to take trash cans and put his food in trash cans, and then he would put ropes on them and lift them up into the trees. So when the park rangers were looking for his camps, that's how they found it. They noticed that there were trash cans tied to ropes up in the trees, and they began to look around, and they found his campsites. I don't want to take any more of your time. I go on to talk about the forensics that were involved and all the evidence in this case. It was, we had a tremendous amount of evidence that tied him. These are pieces of shrapnel of parts and clamps that were found in Officer Sanderson's body that we had the receipt of when Rudolph bought this on Christmas Eve about 5 o'clock at the Walmart in Murphy. And another thing is the type of dynamite that was used has a chemical in it that stays on your hands, and then if you touch something, it comes off of whatever you touch. These are pictures from inside his house. We found that everywhere in his house, that traces of dynamite. This is Jermaine Hughes. He is a great kid. I wanted to adopt him. He is as nice and as respectful, just a wonderful person. He went on to go to Harvard Law School and practice law. It's Jeff Tickle on the right. Okay. Jeff is now, last I talked to Jeff, he was practicing law in Auburn, but he's doing well. And that's Felicia Sanderson, Sandy Sanderson's wife. And this is Will Chambers. Will was my trial partner. He's my second chair in this case, did a fabulous job. And so, folks, at 7 o'clock, I won't take up any more of your time. I'll be glad to stay and answer any questions, but thank you for having me.
On behalf of the Arthur D. Shores, Robert S. Vance in the court, we'd like to present you this special granite plaque. It says a grateful appreciation, Arthur D. Shores, Robert S. Vance in the court of Birmingham, Alabama. American Ends of Court, Chapter 292. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.